Let's move into industrial. Industrial IoT, I talked a little earlier. Every business in the world, small, medium, large, is saying, how do I use this connecting devices to make my businesses better, faster, stronger, etc. You can see that there's a 1 billion connection opportunity here. I actually think, my personal opinion, this is very low. Right? Because really, the reality is that everything inside of the business can be connected to make it faster and better and more efficient. The companies are looking for their leadership. They're looking for their opportunity to make their product better, to treat their customers better, to make their employees more efficient. It's simply as easy as that. At the same time, the more efficiency they're looking for, and there's so many examples, whether we were on stage at CS talking about Emerson and their oven. They used to send people out to 4,000 locations to update their ovens. Now they hit one keystroke and all 4,000 update. There's connecting garbage cans, which people always chuckle at, but there's a lot of garbage cans, and all the companies want to know is, are they upright and how full are they? And that makes their day and makes their jobs much easier, and you go on and on and on. Last support is obviously more productive. How do you make your teams more productive, your business more productive? And obviously, we view this as one of the great opportunities as we go forward. So, as you look at this, as we look at getting into this space, right, we have done a few things that are really important. Again, we've made platform investments around this. I talked about a drive platform. We've got cloud platforms that we're bringing around IoT specific, right, that allows us to help these customers. We have a thing we launched called Cargo View. Cargo View simply allows you to track a device no matter where it is in the world. If it happens to go up in an airplane, obviously we are FAA compliant. It has shock, so you can see if it's been hit or shocked, and this is allowing companies to be much more productive. We've gotten a couple of nice awards from Gartner and others around leading in this space. The really key element here is that we've done 200 contracts already this year. So if you're thinking about what you do, you think about your businesses, you're thinking about how you're in this industry, this space is just exploding before our eyes. One of the deals that I want to talk about today is another very simple deal, and it's a company called Telegis that is actually a company that is very much a leader, right, in worldwide fleet solutions. And they came to us and said, we want to do a few things. One, we want to be able to see diagnostics in the vehicle. We want to be able to track our fleets. We also want to be able to do over-the-air updates to the vehicles, and we're working with them, and we're very excited about the partnership. Let me hit my last group and my last point around connected cars. Connected car, we view as the next great device in your life, right? We've been talking about it for years, right? You can see the numbers. There's been 250 million cars connected globally. This business has just exploded over the past few years. The car companies and the OEMs really get it. They really understand what they've got to do to take this car and take it to be that great device in your life. The trend is outstanding here in the US. As we look forward, about 16 million cars on the road a year that are new. We have an opportunity also with the cars that are on the road, about 150 million that have the ability to add an OBD2 port to. And as you can understand, every aspect of the ecosystem benefits from the car being fully connected all the time, and the ability to get diagnostics from the vehicle, the ability to have that vehicle be smart, etc. One of the key elements here also is safety, right? Distracted driving is a huge issue when it comes to the car. We need to make sure that we're using technology to make the car a safer place for everybody. We have those opportunities that are coming around vehicle to vehicle, so vehicles communicating with each other. We have opportunities around vehicle to infrastructure. We start talking about smart cities and cars working inside of smart cities. We have the ability to do proactive diagnostics that is basically allow you to see and understand what the car is doing before you get in it, so you don't have those issues. These are all things that are going to make the car a safer and better place. We have said, and we are, I guess we actually made the comment earlier this year that about half the cars this year will be connected by AT&T. Okay, so we have a nice lead in this space, and we're very excited about what we've done in this space. So as we look forward around the connected car, we have announced 8 agreements with the 15 major players in the automotive space. Terrific partners, and we're very excited about all the different aspects of how they're competing with us, how they're using the concept of the car being connected to make the car better. We have the advanced platforms I talked about earlier, when most of the automotive players are focused around bifurcated billing, are focused around using that platform, which allows you to take a single SIM and have multiple different relationships in the car, whether wholesale or retail. Obviously, I talked also about the global SIM platform that we're using with a multitude of our players. Today, we have 4.8 million cars connected in the US, okay, which is by far leading the industry. We will have about 10 million cars connected by 2017. I actually think that number's low. And what I'm excited about today is I want to make an announcement that we actually went out this morning, and the fact that we're adding a new manufacturer as one of our partners. So today, as you probably can see in the room, I'm going to announce that Jaguar and Land Rover will be an AT&T connected partner as we go forward. Obviously, it's a beautiful little Jag right there. You can look over there around all those folks who are surrounding the Range Rover Sport. We are working very closely with Jaguar Land Rover around a few key areas. One thing that we've really enjoyed about the relationship is they're very, very customer focused and customer centric. They're focused on infotainment. They're focused on Wi-Fi hotspots in the vehicle, connected navigation, and bringing a suite of apps. The first car that will come out is actually the Range Rover Sport, which is over there to my right. And that car will be the very first, and then as models come out, you will start to see them come out. The Jaguars and the rest of their lineups will be connected with LTE. Right, so it's really, really, really exciting for us. I'm very proud of the team, which is sitting over here in the front row, and the work that they've done to continue to work with these automotive players to bring connectivity to the vehicle and bring all these wonderful things to the car. And again, where I started, to make people's lives better. Last point, and a really important point. When you look at all the things that I've talked about today, you look at that wheel that we were looking at, and I'm going to put that back up. You got to think about the fact that this is about the customer experience. Right? We can talk about how cool it all is. We can talk about all the things we shouldn't want to do in this room as an industry, but it's going to be what the customer views and how the customer feels about what we're trying to bring them. So really critical for us is this needs to be a single experience. Today, when you're doing this, it's not a single experience today, right? You've got an app for every single thing. I got an app for my car, an app for my home, an app for my dog collar, or whatever you have. We've got to try to bring a single experience to customers. Really, really important for the industry to do that. Number two, it's got to be simplified. In other words, how they do this has got to be a simplified solution. And last, and probably the most important, is we have to allow these things to take care of us. So my last point is this. The future of where we're headed is about these inanimate objects really taking care of us. So if you think about Meredith for a second, and Meredith's home in DC, Meredith has a lot of things to think about when she wakes up in the morning and leaves for work. Meredith really should have almost nothing to think about. Because she can get up, right? She's got her smartphone in her hand. She may have a wearable on her wrist that knows it's Meredith. And when she walks out the door, her house should already know what to do when she leaves. So when she walks out, closes the door, walks 10 feet from her home, why shouldn't the house take care of her? And turn the thermostats down, turn the lights off, lock the doors, turn the alarm on. When she walks up to this beautiful Jaguar, which she, by the way, thinks is hers, it's not. When she walks up to this Jaguar, it knows it's Meredith. So why in the world wouldn't it unlock the doors? Right? Have her seat settings, put on her radio station, put temperature where she wants it so she can drive to work. The reality is once you tell these objects once what to do, they should do it for you. Just like when she's coming home, it does the opposite. The goal for us as an industry and for us to grow and for us to see the incredible growth we saw from 85 to 2000 to 2014 is we've got to continue to make things simple for our customers and bring them simple experiences that solve problems. I want to thank you all today. I appreciate everybody being here and your time, and I hope you have a great, great, great rest of the day.
That was great, and where is my Jag? What a great way to start our day. Next up, we are lucky to have one of the key media leaders pushing mobility here today. Bob Pittman, the chairman and CEO of iHeartMedia. Bob brings a remarkable background as the visionary behind MTV and AOL. He is now reimagining iHeartMedia to deliver the content people want across platforms. He has spent a career connecting consumers and media. Bob will be joined by Phil Cowdell, CEO of MediaCom, a leading voice in how companies and brands can and need to embrace a mobile strategy. Please join me in welcoming Bob and Phil.
How are we all doing out there? Who wants to drive one of the break? Hands up, we'll get a lift. That's fabulous, that car. I'm here with Bob, just back from Burning Man, and so we could actually spend the next 25 minutes talking about the bizarre things of Burning Man, but actually what we're going to talk about is the revolution in mobile and how, frankly, radio is playing its part in that revolution.
Well, look, I think if you look at mobile, and we sort of looked at it today without regard to the past, clearly radio would be a part of mobile. If you look at the usage, what we call a mobile device, what Glenn was just talking about, 2/3 of the use is done in the home. What is it, half the people don't have a wired line anymore? 80% of the data is consumed over Wi-Fi. Radio, 2/3 of the use is actually consumed out of home. It is an out-of-home device. It has always been a mobile device. There used to be a day in which we had small transistor radios. I have one in the 1960s. It's back. It's called the cell phone. It's called the mobile phone. It is that device now that the consumer actually thinks about that device as a portable radio. They have a clock radio, they have a bathroom radio, they have a kitchen radio, they have a car radio, they have an office radio, and now they have a radio in their pocket. And indeed, with on iHeartRadio, the #1 hour of listening in the entire day is 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., which is when the most people are going from their car to the office, and they had to leave the radio. Now they continue the radio with this mobile device. So from our standpoint, we consider ourselves, and internally, as we program and as we talk to our advertising partners and our other partners, we think about ourselves as part of the mobile universe. And the promise of mobile from an advertising standpoint and promotion standpoint is that we're finally able to talk to the consumer closer to the point of purchase. And if you look at the statistics, 49% of Americans listen to the radio within 30 minutes of shopping. The next largest is outdoor at about 22%. So we're able to finally deliver that, and in our case, deliver it at scale.
But to the point of scale, it's funny how in the agency world sometimes people are a little dismissive of radio. When you look at the Nielsen numbers and the audiences, the numbers now are the level they were in the 70s. How do you think radio and mobile radio has really been able to do that?
It's interesting. If you look at the statistics and don't put a name to the statistics, call something thing A and thing B, what you'll find is that radio, with all the characteristics, clusters with digital. In the latest, I mean, it's shocking for me, having spent so much time in the TV business and the internet business, is Q1 of this year, Nielsen put out their total audience report. TV used to be the reach medium, 95% reach of homes in the U.S. It's dropped to 87% in Q1. And among millennials, it dropped to 75%. 1 out of 4 don't watch TV. It's #3 behind radio and smartphone. On the other hand, radio was always 93%, 1970. This year, 93%. With millennials, 93%. Smartphone seems to be taking a lot of the usage from TV and is really swapping places with TV in that mix. And I think that is, to me, a fascinating phenomenon. And for us, we not only think of the phone as a way you can get radio, it's also the controller. We used to have people call the request line. Radio is wildly social. Radio is not like TV, it's not programs, it's your best friend sitting in the empty seat next to you in the car. If we program well with Ryan Seacrest or Elvis Duran or Steve Harvey or whoever, you've got your best friend talking in your ear all the way to work. And they used to call us on the phone to interact. Today they call us on Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram or texting or email. And when they talk to us in the old days, it was a dialogue, one-to-one. Today when they talk to us in OmniLive, they're also talking to their friends. And we had the iHeartRadio Music Awards this spring on NBC. We had 14 billion social impressions. To put that in perspective, the Academy Awards only had 6 billion, and the halftime show at the Super Bowl only had 3 billion. And that's the power of letting the consumer have that device that allows them to stay connected to that product.
Because talking of the device, we're all here at a mobility conference, but we still use the word phone. It's the wrong word. I remember a presentation that did with some colleagues back in '99, and we said there's this thing, and it's going to be about yay big and that much, and you can take pictures and organize your life and your calendar and everything else, and we called it a PTD, a personal trusted device. Terrible word, probably something out of Back to the Future, but
sounds like a disease.
Are we getting, too early in the morning for that one, but do we think we're getting caught up in this wrong language of a phone? Because a phone, streaming audio, radio, it's almost, we've got the language of the old, and we're trying to talk about the revolution in mobile. I think we're getting constrained by some of the old practices. So how would you reframe that?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I think in Glenn's presentation, when he was really talking about that circle of everything that this device does, I mean, the only thing I'm a little upset is I still have to carry credit cards in my pocket.
Not much longer.
Not much longer. I mean, I really want that thing to have everything on it. We're talking about the cost of medical care. Why do I have to get my doctor to get my medical records? Why is it just on my phone? Why is it everything about me living on that device? And I think if you look at consumer research, we spend a lot of time looking at it, is the consumer clearly is expecting that device to have it all. And I think increasingly it is having it all. And I think if I had to invest in one thing out of it all, my limitation is battery power.
Yeah.
And I think you look at what Tesla's doing, you might say that's just an excuse to really work on technology for batteries. And I think the Moore's law of processing is really beginning to hit the battery, the energy storage business. And I'm a pilot and spend a lot of time sort of looking at when is that equation going to change where the pound of jet fuel is going to produce less power than the pound of that battery. And I think it's transforming not only those industries, but I think it's going to be critically important to this one.
It's funny, almost to show our hands in the audience, who gets their battery runs down before the end of the day when you finish the working day? Certainly now I do. And it's just crazy, isn't it? You get a busy day in the morning, you don't even get to your first meeting and it's flat. If there was one thing the industry can do, please, 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 and there's probably someone in the convention hall that's got the answer, please can we find a way to extend battery life? That would help all of us, because it is that thing, it's not a phone, it's our remote control for our lives. And so as we think about it like that, one thing I would like to sort of push on though is that, maybe I'm going to upset the folks from Apple, but when Apple Radio came out, I was with them and I said, but it's not radio, it's streaming audio. I think there's a difference between what radio does and what audio at your fingertips is. And so do you want to talk about that, that dimension?
Sure, I think it has always been that way. By the way, not many people are old enough, but I grew up in the era of AM radio and 45 RPM records. And my idea of a playlist was how I stacked them up on the record changer with it drop down the next one. And it was portable. They sold boxes that were the size of 45 records with a handle on it. You could carry it to your friend's house and take my music with me. It's gotten a lot easier. But in that experience, we're seeing exactly the same thing we see today. There are two things that use music. One is my music collection, which is really a definition of who I am. You'll see kids very early go, oh, can I see your playlist? What they're really looking for is, are you the kind of person I'd be a friend with or not?
Are you cool?
Yeah, are you cool or not? In my day, we had an album.
Showed your playlist to your kids. Is that something we'd safely do?
Yeah, well, I will, and the only thing that's different is they don't know what an Emerson, Lake and Palmer is. But in the old days, you'd take your Peter Frampton did a fan club and suddenly wasn't cool anymore. You'd take that album out of your collection and hide it because it made you uncool. Today, people, move it to another playlist or hide it there. But the music collection also is when you curate for yourself. And it's for this moment in time, and it's almost like a cone you want to put over you to shut out the outside world. You don't want to hear a disc jockey. You don't want to hear weather. You don't want to hear commercials. You want to escape the world. Radio is actually the mirror image of your music collection. Radio is when you actually want to find out what's going on in the world and you want to join the world. and you turn on, you'll see people sometimes, you know, they're listening to music in the car, and suddenly they just turn on the radio. Why did they do that? Because they're ready to go back to being social, to being a part of society. And if you turn on the radio, it's like walking into your favorite bar, pub, or whatever, and they know you, go, hey Bob, what's going on? And we start exchanging information. That yes, we play your favorite music, but our big morning shows on our music radio stations maybe play 2 songs an hour, because you're going to sleep, we got a lot to catch up on. We're going to talk to you about everything. You're going to hear people calling in, you're going to hear all the important information, you're going to hear important information like what's twerking, what's Justin Bieber's new haircut, what's he doing with that monkey,
It's because you can't get Elvis to stop talking. That's
no,
the problem.
and we actually, ratings-wise, we get a better rating if he talks than if we play a song. And so the radio is all about being your best friend. And we often describe it when we're talking to our programmers, it's your best friend sitting in the empty seat next to you in the car.
And Ryan is the perfect example.
And Ryan Seacrest is that. And so they're really 2 different things. How do people get confused about it? By the way, on radio, on digital, on our digital listening of our radio stations, it's actually greater. 25% of the listening on digital is to talk radio stations, not music radio stations. Because sometimes, well, you never want to play music. Sometimes you do want to play music, especially in the afternoon, busy day at work, I'm ready to, let's go to a little lighter in our conversation. And so when you think about it differently, it helps you understand, and as a guide to, okay, what should I be doing with Spotify, what should I be doing with iTunes, what should I be doing with iHeartRadio, which is, you know, primarily a radio station, what should I do with Pandora, which is sort of in between.
But that leads me to, I think, the next point amongst advertisers. Which advertisers are doing it well, and which maybe have got some encouragement and opportunity. I think it's interesting when you think about the mobile device and advertising on a mobile device. Thank God banners are nearly dead. You know, the sooner that happens, the better. I don't know about the rest of you. In my eyesight, I can't see the little thing anymore when it scrolls to the bottom. You then get to the point then, so, oh, it's about apps, but then how do you get everyone to download and use an app? And then, well, what's sort of next? So when we think about music entertainment utility on a mobile device, with radio being the fuel for that, what do you think is coming next, and who are the advertisers who are going to really sort of reap the rewards of that?
You know, it's interesting. You know, you guys are going through the industry, probably the biggest accounts up for review ever in the history of the business. And some of it, I'm sure, is procurement, saying, can we get a cheaper price? But in talking to a lot of the advertisers themselves, you realize a lot of it, and I know you guys are going through it, is they really want to say, who has reinvented how we do marketing and advertising using all these devices. Because I think gone are the days when I say, I'm going to buy some TV, I'm going to buy some radio, I'll buy some newspaper, I'm going to buy this, and I've got my plan. That it's really about, I need to do something with the consumer, and I need to do all this stuff holistically, all connected. So I think the people who are doing it best are the folks who really look at this opportunity and say, okay, I need to connect with that consumer. In our mind, in advertising, I don't think you ever sell anybody anything. I think you connect people who are interested to the product they're interested in. You're helping them find each other, and you're helping them understand each other. And so for us, you know, we can put the message out there. And by the way, in mobile is made for streaming, because when the screen goes blank, you're still listening. And if an ad comes on, it's in real time, and you're not going to pull up the device to go to skip it. As a matter of fact, we have less switching of stations on the mobile device than we do on a radio device, which has buttons. Makes it a little too easy to jump around. And then when you do it, you say, okay, now how do I amplify that in social? We just did something. How does the message go out on Facebook or Instagram? We're one of the Discover channels on Snapchat. How do I also now put that on Snapchat? How do I take the video? We're doing the iHeartRadio Music Festival here next week, our 5th one, sort of the granddaddy of big, you know, collaborative music events with all the major stars playing together for 2 nights. One of the most interesting things for that consumer is what's happening backstage. In the era of YouTube, they actually already know sort of what the performer's going to look like on stage, although it's a lecture, we're going to do some collaborations, and they'll do a different show than they do anywhere else. What they really want to know is, what are they saying to each other backstage? What are they talking about? Now, with all of the phone here I've got, calling it a phone, I'm able to take pictures, I'm able to do video, I'm able to do live streaming from back there. Suddenly we can take people with us in a way, and for our advertising partners, suddenly they can be a gateway in. This year we're doing, at the iHeartRadio Music Festival, we're doing the Samsung Lounge. And a lot's going to happen with Samsung at the festival. And by the way, the place you go where you want to sort of hang out with the VIP group is in the Samsung Lounge. We'll probably take some people from that, take them backstage to let them use their Samsung phones and actually put the message out in a very broad way to the world. And so for us, the advertisers that do it well are the ones that say, let's go along for the ride. We're trying to connect to that consumer. Let's just don't connect through, we'll buy radio from you and TV here, but as we talk to your folks, we're all talking about, okay, how do we put this whole thing together so we touch them in every way they can be touched?
Because it's funny, it wasn't long ago we started talking paid, earned, and earned, and then we went, well, actually, paid, and paid, because you pay for the owned and you pay for the earned. But it's sort of almost going beyond that. It's any device, anywhere. And then it's just about content. Is it audio, video, or text? So we try and talk about sort of, you know, VAI, video, audio, image, and is each of those interactive? And it shouldn't be about, I'm going to buy some radio or I'm going to do a mobile campaign. A mobile campaign is a nonsense, because most people are mobile all the time. It's like the oxygen that fuels the system. So I think for advertisers, certainly for agencies and for sellers of media, we've actually got to change the way we think about those conversations. And we've got to change the structure of the organization to do it. Now, certainly the way that your team tries to work is much more sort of holistic. Are the agencies matching up to that yet, or are we still being a little backward and retarded?
You know, it's interesting. It depends on who we're talking to at the agency. I think in every agency, as we begin to talk to the people who are really doing the planning, sort of the whole thing, we're getting a very holistic approach. The problem is most agencies, and it's changing, are really set up in television, radio, digital. And for us, we go, why are we in the digital buyer? Now, some agencies do have us in the digital buys. Some say, no, you're radio. And I go, well, what about this, and this? And they go, well, maybe that is digital. And so I think the world is changing in both media companies and there. When I got to our company 4 years ago, we were all talking about selling spots. And when a salesperson came back and they had $1 million order, they said, what do they want with $1 million? Well, they want X number of spots in these time periods. And I go, that's not what they wanted. They expect a result from it. And I'd say, what do they expect? And when they talked to the agency buyer didn't know either. Now we're getting much, much better about solution-based selling. When we go in and talk, we actually really don't talk about radio. We really don't talk about digital. We talk about what's waking you up in the middle of the night. What is it you have to solve? Will you give us the assignment to solve that for you? And we'll come back and tell you which assets we're going to use, but that's almost beside the point. The point is that we're focused on that solution. And by the way, we want to and expect to be held accountable for solving that problem. Is it I need X number of test drives for that car that I'm trying to launch? Is it that I need to reduce my churn rate for a carrier? Is it that I need to get so many signups? Is that I need my brand awareness to come up? Do I find out that millennials aren't adopting my brand the way others are, and I need to bring the millennials into my brand? I mean, each one of these are separate problems. You know, you get down to also, when people say millennials, it sounds like one category, which it's not. And we had a brief, somebody said, well, talk to millennial moms. So we brought them the millennial mom who listens to hip-hop, the millennial mom who listens to pop music, the millennial mom who listens to country, and the millennial mom who listens to talk radio, and they go, oh, they're different millennial moms. You bet they're different millennial moms. So, and we need a different plan for each one.
But we do like these fat words, don't we? Like, do you remember when we had digital, and there was a different department for digital, then, oh, it's mobile, and then it's just, the fat words allow us to get lazy. You talked about audience, and I think it's interesting from our point of view, there's the two scales that we think about. One is the granularity, so, you know, what is that hip-hop listening millennial mom with 2 kids who's looking for a new car? And then what's the aggregation, and how many of those are there to meet a business goal? And almost that granularity versus aggregation, it's really the playoff of those two that I think we've got to work to, and the data fuels that. So I think if there's anything, understanding more about the data to be as specific as we can, and then work out how many there are for commonalities, is really the key. But you've just done that unified deal, haven't you, with investing in some strategic partnerships. What's that about? What's the intent?
Well, you know, we think that, you know, a cynic might say the reason we started iHeartRadio is not to have another mobile way to get your product, but really we wanted to get the identity. We wanted to know who those people are who are listening. Today, although it's only about 4 or 5% of the total listening, about a third of our listeners will at one time or another listen to their favorite radio station on the mobile device. When they do, we now know all the data about them. And we now can take and say, okay, in C100, a third of the people are these people. Who are the other 2/3? We can project into it. If you look at services like, Facebook, etc., they don't match everybody either. And, sort of the standard practice is to get a group of them, and then I can begin to make some assumptions about who these other people are and begin to project into that group. So for us, it's allowed us to turn radio, I don't know who those people are other than this basic demo information that Nielsen gives us. Now, thanks to mobile, we're able to apply that data to the entire listenership, whether they're listening on this mobile device called a phone, or whether they're listening on this mobile device called a radio in my car. And now we're able to not only program better, but we're able for our advertising partners to really get some in-depth information. For example, if I've got a Pampers buyer, typically the Pampers advertiser probably wants women 18 to 34, probably buys Morning Drive, fights like crazy your buyer for the cheapest price I can get for that spot. Probably they get a better return on investment than trying to beat the price down on Morning Drive is to find out exactly which stations those Pamper listeners are on. There are probably 2 or 3 buying habits. Maybe there's a Monday through Wednesday, 11 to 3, maybe there's a Friday afternoon, and maybe there's a Saturday daytime. If I can find those people and find out which stations they're on, I can now buy the spots when they're on their way to the store where they might buy the Pampers to remind them to buy the Pampers. And now I'm probably going to get a cheaper spot than getting a discount, and I'm probably going to get a much better return on investment. And begin to get to attribution. And I think we're moving from a world of ratings to a world of attribution, return on investment. I spend $1, how many are they get back? You don't care about unit pricing, you care about efficiency.
But to that point, outcomes, inputs are irrelevant. A cost per thousand, to me, is a bit of an irrelevance because I could buy, people want to buy that car at a certain price, but if I don't sell enough of them, I have to buy some people at a higher price. This move to outcomes is really the key. It's like, what does it drive and how does it do it? So data underpins that. I think the challenge sometimes is how much gets shared, even from the client to the agency, and certainly from the agency to the media partner, to understand that piece. And then you throw in mobile with sometimes the challenges on data sets, that it starts to break down. What is the sort of community we're able to do to try and join up these numbers?
Well, I think it's a very good point, and I think probably this whole community, and there are probably people out here whose companies are built on trying to make that better. And I probably, every week, our people are probably seeing 10 to 15 new vendors and suppliers who've got some solution to exactly that problem. I will say, I think it's light years ahead of where it was 5 years ago. I suspect in 5 years we'll look back at today and think this was the dark ages. And I think we are, it's incumbent upon us, I think, to really get down to that level of granularity, because every time we do get more and more efficient, we're able, as you point out, to measure the outcome, not the input, which is sort of meaningless. And I think also we're finding great partners in the carriers who are as interested, I think, in understanding that
is so rich.
Stunning. And I think the information they want to help serve the consumer better, by the way, attract new, reduce churn, etc. And by the way, make this device more robust and make it one day where we'll stop calling it a phone. I don't know what they call it, CDT, it's coming. And I think that we're all married, and we spend an enormous amount of time with both the people making the handset, we spend the time with the carriers, we spend time with other content folks, with data companies, we're making major investments in these data companies. We're developing our own data tools. And as you say, they're also advertising partners. I'm not going to share the information with you. I'll let our agency hold our information. You give your information, let the agency put the two together. I think the agency takes on a completely new, relevant role in this world. And in the old days, say, well, I could buy spots myself. What you can't do is put it all together. And I think the agency's entering a world of probably a renaissance in terms of importance to advertisers. That's not how low is the cost, but how valuable is the service.
And that's absolutely the mission for all of us. With the last minute to go, as the man who created music television with MTV, to the man who created online behavior with AOL, to the man who changed the radio industry with iHeart, you've got sort of one wish for mobile, what would that one wish be?
I think with mobile, it is, I think, the direction it's already headed, which is mobile becomes the device in which we pull it all together. That I'm able to do all the things I want to do right here. You know, in the early days of AOL, I think we missed the importance of mobile for video because we couldn't see the bandwidth that was going to be there.
Yep.
And we also thought, well, who's going to look at this small thing? But the thing that has ruled every business I've ever been in is not size or quality, I hate to say it, it is convenience. And it is easier to just pull the thing out of my pocket and look at it than it is going to another room. My children in my house will not yell, "Dad," they will text me. And I go, I'm right in the next room, just yell at me, I can hear you. I'm an old guy. And I think we're changing behavior dramatically, and I think we're on a really interesting path, and I think this increasing speed, bandwidth, and convenience is leading us to a fabulous new world.
Well, mobile is everything. We're glad that you guys are investing in it, creating it, and bringing it to us. We just got to make sure that we can apply it in the right ways with the right clients, with the right partners. So for that, well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you everyone for your attention as well.
They were great, weren't they? One of the reasons that I am so excited about our future is that guys like Bob and Phil are innovating and focused on wireless. Just like our next speaker. I'm thrilled that Verizon's Marnie Walden is here today. Marnie, that's right. Marnie's compiled an outstanding track record of innovation, from rolling out Verizon's Share Everything data plans to forging groundbreaking relationships with the NFL and other content providers. Earlier this year, she was named President of Product and New Business Innovation, in charge of Verizon's emerging businesses from the Internet of Things to digital video, with a focus on developing new products across all Verizon platforms. This morning, you'll get a glimpse of one of the first innovations to come out of her newly created organization. And you'll hear from two of Verizon's partners in the mobile video ecosystem. But first, let's set the stage.
7.6 million U.S. households have left pay television.
Whether it's on the phone or on their iPad, they're watching more video.
Yahoo's streaming an NFL game, and there's all kinds of examples of where streaming is taking over.
The move that Verizon just made, in my opinion, is so progressive.
AOL's got programming. AOL's got the technology to compete against Google. They're really the only guy.
It's one of the series of fairly bold steps that the giant telecom company has taken.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marnie Walden.
Oh, a little extra music is always good. Thank you, and good morning to all of you. So it's really great to be here, and Meredith, thank you for that introduction. As she said, I work on the new stuff. So my team helps develop the new products and services as well as the new businesses. Hopefully you'll all get a chance to stop by the showroom today and see our booth where we're featuring things like intelligent transportation and smart cities. But today we're here to talk about our favorite topic, which is mobile video. And I want to start with just a few of the trends, which I know many of you probably follow, but it starts with viewership. So you probably know that 20% of the households in America don't subscribe to traditional pay TV. And then if you looked at last year, 2014, 8% of the households cut that spending and cut the cord. And then you look out and say, if you look into the future, OTT or over-the-top services will reach penetration of roughly 80% in 2018. Also, we know that the device or the screen that people turn to first is changing. We call it the mobile first world. We know that it's not the screen that sits on the table in your family room or hangs on your wall. It's about the mobile device you carry in your pocket. Of the time spent on digital, the majority is on your mobile device. We know that 1 in 3 Americans go to their smartphone every single day to watch content, and then another 100 million go on tablets. And then last year in the US, adults spent more time on their mobile device than they did on their personal computers. If you start looking at the millennials, those numbers are even larger. So 2/3 consider the smartphone the #1 source for video. 40% have never paid for traditional TV services. And 47%, and approaching 50%, use social media while they're watching and enjoying their content. The other place that things are changing are the advertisers. So digital will surpass print in 2016. We also know that it'll surpass traditional TV in 2018. 9 out of the 10 advertisers who are spending money are shifting to digital. And in 2019, more than half of the spend, the advertising dollars, will be spent on mobile video. So those are all big changes, and we think Verizon is at the perfect place to take charge of that opportunity. First, we start with our assets. So we have the nation's largest 4G LTE network. We have 110 million relationships with customers. We've assembled a number of video and tech assets. If you think about the acquisitions we've made from Edgecast to Uplink, which helped form our content delivery business. We then made the purchase of Intel Media, which you'll see the fruition of that come today. And then we also have AOL, which was just announced, and Millennial Media. But the other thing that's really important to bring this all together is to have key partners. And we have amazing partners who've gone on this journey with us in really what I think has been uncharted territory. And we have a couple of those partners here today, and I'm excited to introduce them to you. So first, who probably doesn't need an introduction, but is Jeffrey Katzenberg. So you know that he's the CEO and co-founder of DreamWorks Animation. He founded it in 1994 with his partner, Steven Spielberg. He's won a number of awards. He's been up for 9 Academy Awards, and he's won 2 of those. And then he made the brilliant move, which we'll get to talk about with him, of purchasing and acquiring Awesomeness TV, which is one of our key partners. Jeffrey, can I have you come to the stage? Okay, and the next partner I want to introduce to you will give us the perspective from the advertising side. So Dave Pensky, who's the Chief Commercial Officer at Vivaki Global, which is a part of the Publicis Group. It was founded in 2008 to accelerate the digital transformation. It's a global leader in digital ads, and Dave manages roughly $80 billion of spend. So Dave, could you come join us as well? Okay, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, so the very first question, because I know there was someone on before that went to Burning Man, and I know, Jeffrey, you just got back. So that's not part of what we're going to talk about the full day.
Well, actually, I blame Bob Pittman. He's the one that actually got me to Burning Man. I was actually thinking about it as he was here this morning. I realized that, you know, there's an amazing expression that sort of encompasses the culture of Las Vegas, you know, which is everything that happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. And what I realized is Las Vegas is the Little League, and Burning Man is the All-Stars. What happens at Burning Man stays at Burning Man.
So maybe that is how we should spend the next 30 minutes. So, okay, all right, well, I got to learn a little bit about what happens at Burning Man, so we'll leave it at that. So let me just ask you, Jeffrey, I know that you've been at the center of this, and maybe starting with film. So how is content changing? How is the digital world changing? How is mobile making film different for you today?
Well, I think maybe, I think we are at literally this amazing inflection point that is going to create a genuine revolution. And to try and frame it, the way I think about it is that when we moved from a world in the 1950s in which entertainment, film entertainment, were movies and movie theaters, and television came along. And television, whether it was in hour format, half-hour comedies, news, it actually reinvented what entertainment means and how it was delivered and how we perceived it. And you can actually look over the years every time a new delivery or technology platform came along, cable, and just leap ahead today, and I believe what we will see in the next handful of years is a revolution in the types of entertainment that we are going to consume, and it's all going to be made for mobile. Mobile is going to be the platform of the next decade or two. And, you know, the foundation of it began in this amazing YouTube universe of, you know, UGC, and it started to evolve. And the sort of leaders in this area, on the entertainment side, were Awesomeness TV, which is why we made the purchase of Awesomeness TV, because Brian Robbins and Brett Boutier are literally the pioneers that are creating a new form of content. And it is connecting first and foremost with Gen Z and millennials. And you can see the tidal wave rising here. The other two that are doing, I think, an interesting or really remarkably great job in it are BuzzFeed and Vice. Theirs are based on news content, whereas Brian and Brett, ATV is based on actual storytelling and entertainment. And what we are going to see happen in a very short period of time is the highest quality content being made that we're used to seeing, whether it's on paid television, whether it's a Game of Thrones or a House of Cards or Orange is the New Black, content of that quality made, conceived to be native to mobile. And it will be delivered, in my opinion, is in 4 to 10 minute bites and bits and snacks, because that is the way in which we, in terms of our lifestyles and how we go about our lives today, how we can best consume it when it's on a device like this.
So Dave, let me ask you about that. So what does that mean for advertisers, for brands, and what's happening with that space?
Yeah, we're seeing just the massive spend towards mobile. I think we're looking at advertising spend on a yearly basis over the next few years being up somewhere between 3% and 5%. And of that, 50% of that gain is on mobile. It is where we're seeing across all media, from what we consider our traditional, and Bob talked about this before, how we had generally thought of things in these pillars of radio, TV, print, and the fact that mobile is actually kind of the connector of where you stop thinking of things that way. And I think that we're seeing each of the products for what are traditionally produced by those networks being produced for mobile. And I certainly agree that the content is going to be tremendous, and this is what we're looking forward to. I think what we need is advertisers to do a better job of is on the commercial side and on the content that we're producing for visuals. I think one of the struggles we have is you can now target 1,000 different targets with pinpoint accuracy, or as pretty close as we get to that. You have a tendency to want to produce 1,000 different ads, and often as you produce 1,000 different ads, your content quality decreases. So I think one thing we need to figure out from an advertising perspective is how do we adjust for that? How do we make sure that the content from a commercial standpoint is going to be equal to the content being produced by some of the...
I knew you were going to want to jump in on ad creation.
Yeah, well, the thing is where it's just, I know this is because it literally is about us making a quantum leap beyond what we know today. So if content is going to be delivered in the mobile world, in the mobile universe, content is going to be delivered and consumed in 4 to 10 minute segments, pieces in it. then the idea, which is, it's not about just taking an hour television show and cutting it into repurposing linear content into it. It won't work. If you took an episode of any long-form show and you cut it up in it, it would be a completely unsatisfying viewing experience in it, because if there are chapters to these. If there's an arc that's written to every episode of every professionally produced television show, where there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, a cliffhanger, or something that serializes along the way in it. And so finding what that new format is, what is new TV, is what I keep saying is a revolutionary thing. It's not a repurposing thing. And advertising, in the same way, you can't think of it as we're going to have now television commercials that are 30 seconds or 20 seconds or 15 seconds. That will not work in this world. What will work in this world is integration and sponsorship. So ATV today, which is, by the way, 70% mobile, which is why we wanted to be on the #1 mobile carrier. And I have to say, Verizon has been aggressive and innovative in sort of pushing into this new world, which is why we've actually been so excited about the partnership that we've had with them. But ATV today, 90% of its revenue is actually coming from sponsorship, integration, and the repurposing of that content from that platform onto others. And 10% of it is coming from what we would consider traditional advertising.
So Dave, what is the size? What's the real market opportunity in mobile advertising? If we put some numbers out there, but what do you think?
Yeah, it's enormous. I think it's also, it is look at mobile advertising also, it's also a tough question to ask me. It's multiple billions in terms of the revenue perspective next year. It's also the amount of inventory that we are now purchasing on either what was originally digital, originally linear TV, that ends up running on mobile, and people are viewing on tablets or phones or what that be. And it was content that we had originally purchased as an advertiser on linear, and now it's being, in terms of where the consumer is not watching it on linear TV, they're watching it online. That's where they're actually delivering the impression. So when you count it that way, it's 5 billion plus in terms of the total revenue opportunity for mobile video advertising.
Do you think that you'll see a natural move of that spend moving over, or do you think there'll be a little bit of wait and see what happens on mobile, or how do you see the migration?
I would say that we have an industry of slow to medium followers, so I would say that it's going to be a more of a slower migration. It's going to be quicker than other things that we've been innovating much faster in terms of moving spend over, but we have many of our advertisers in general, I won't speak client by client, that struggle with sponsorship model. That they are, they work on a very econometric system of this many spots and dots sells this many products, and I think in this new world it's taking time to figure out a new model and a way to predict, for their own sales, but start looking at across the packaged goods market. This is certainly a struggle. This is not the same as it was a few years ago.
I want to switch to millennials, and I think we need to include Gen Z when we talk about this as well. But what are the challenges you both see with that audience today, both from your respective positions, and then what do you think the big opportunities? So.
Well, again, I go back to saying that this generation, particularly Gen Z, they are the generation that were born to smartphone. And so they were and continue to be the fastest to adapt to it. They are the ones who are most comfortable and confident about it, although millennials are certainly likewise very, very strong. And you can see the curve here of adaptation. 8 out of 10 Gen Zers spend 4.5 hours a day on their smartphone. And here's what's interesting to me about it. 67% of that time is in their home. So it's not just out and about being mobile. It is the way in which it has become comfortable for them to consume. And so, you know, the opportunity around that, and as they age and move on into the ecosystem, and you look at it over the next decade, we are looking at a transformative time. It is a real shift in our behaviors and our consumption. The one thing I will say, though, is I actually don't believe this is a zero-sum game, and that made-for-mobile content, in my opinion, is going to be additive to what is already a very robust ecosystem of linear content. And I don't think that it is going to make HBO or Netflix or Hulu or any of those any less successful or less appealing or less important, because they are different experiences. To sit down and watch a 1-hour piece of entertainment is a different commitment, and we have those places and spaces in our habits and in our day, but we actually have many more moments, in between moments, 4 to 10-minute moments, in which if we give people a super high quality entertainment experience, it will be a blockbuster success.
Dave, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with almost everything you're saying, absolutely.
Well, what do you not agree with?
Well, I'll take that. I think one thing is interesting, one thing I'm really interested to see is Vice. You mentioned a little before, Vice is doing it in a bit of a backward way. They're a very strong digital mobile player now, launching a traditional TV cable network coming in January. And they've discussed whether or not they're going to time things in 4 and 10-minute segments, or they're not going to do 30 seconds. They're not going to do 30-minute blocks. They're not going to do 22 minutes of content and 8 minutes of commercials. They're not going to do that. And I'm really interested to see what happens out of that, because I think that I actually believe that the mobile and millennial world will, and this is certainly what millennials have already done to our advertising world, will actually revolutionize it. I think you see more long-tail cable, especially who's struggling right now with viewership, with revenue. And I think this is a new way to look at it. Maybe sort of looking at some of the cable providers, looking at content in more snackable pieces, and not just the 22 minutes. And that model's going to have to change. So I actually think that what I look at is the mobile audience and the millennial or generation, whatever you're going to discuss that younger scale, is going to force the larger cable ecosystem to make changes. And I think the Vice is really at that, certainly at that inflection point, because they're doing it the completely opposite way of everybody else. And I am looking forward. I think I really believe in their content. And you know, the TV content that's coming up is going to be much more around not news. It's going to be much more about more environmental and documentary style. And I've seen a lot of it. I think it's great. So I think it should be hopefully a big win in a way to look at the industry a bit differently.
Vice is one of our key partners, so they're very, very interesting. Jeffrey, I want to talk about talent, because you've seen some moves of some of the great talent coming off the platform because they're not getting the viewership on traditional. So what's your perspective on, will we see more of that? Is that just, you know, a trend that's starting? How do you view talent moving from traditional to more emerging platforms?
Well, I think it's moving both ways. You know, we're seeing these amazing influencers who are creating phenomenal followings on the YouTube platform, and then migrating off of that into other opportunities. By the way, they don't walk away from their YouTube audience. That continues to be a fantastic promotional and marketing platform, and that's why for even ATV, if we migrate onto the Verizon platform, we want to protect that YouTube because it's a funnel, it's a marketing platform. It will help us funnel people into our Verizon offering, which is a premium offering that does have differentiated and exclusive content on it. But we see talent moving both ways. We see a migration of talent and stars off of the YouTube channels into traditional media, and likewise we're seeing more and more where people in the traditional media field are understanding how important these platforms are for building and sustaining and mining their audience.
All right. else you'd want to say on how you monetize in a mobile-first world?
Sure. I think that one of the things we've been able for us to do is the hardest audience to reach for us right now is that under 35, under 24. And I think that the great thing about having a true scalable model is we can reach them on a consistent basis. We want to get a message out, whether it's launching a new movie, whether it's launching a new phone or a new car, all of those things require, none of those things change. In advertising, that has not changed. To get that information out in a quick way, at scale, with reach, and I really look at it, excited about from a monetization standpoint, is we can now look to get large audiences and at a premium price. And it's going to be that we need to pay a premium price. The advertisers realize that. We want premium content. We want content that is professionally produced, that is something that they're looking for, and there is going to be a price for that. And we're not able to get those eyeballs anywhere else. I mean, it's not like we can buy them on linear television at scale at all. You start mentioning those households falling off of Nielsen homes, start mentioning at the beginning about the millennials cutting the cord or have never even had a cord to cut. That is something that was worrisome to me. This is a solution for me to look at as how can we reach that younger demographics.
Jeffrey, I know you talked about awesomeness, but and you've also said what happens at Burning Man stays at Burning Man, so you're not going to do an animation about it. But what's next for DreamWorks?
Well, I hope a couple of really great, successful movies coming. So we got Kung Fu Panda 3 coming in January. But for us as a company, what we're now trying to do is to build out on this brand that has taken 20 years to build, and one that has a very specific set of values associated with it that people instantly get and understand. And how do we follow our audience? We want to be everywhere where our audience is. And so we moved into television. We have we are probably the largest producer of original television animation in the world today for content for Netflix. We see television as a tremendous opportunity for us. Linear television going forward it is a growth business in a big way, and we're really excited about new media. I really have to say I don't think there is a bigger opportunity waiting for us or for you than made for mobile. And I think we will come back here 3 years from now and have this conversation, and what will have occurred is literally going to be an entire new industry, an ecosystem around it, and incredible opportunity and wealth that is going to be created with quality, high-end, premium content made with the best filmmakers, best storytellers, to be delivered on a mobile device.
All right, we just have a minute left here, so I want to ask both of you, the ending question of, what worries you about the opportunity in front of us? We all have agreed that we think there's a huge opportunity. That's why we partnered. But what worries you about it?
One of the things that worries you about digital and mobile advertising in general is viewability and fraud, which I think is still a industry issue. For the reason we are adopting things faster than we are today is we want to make sure that this is going to be premium, it's going to be 100% viewable, and remove as many of the fraud situations we have across mobile advertising and digital advertising in general, which is still something that scares the industry. It's something we need to watch out for.
What I think about every day and everything that we do is I think about how do we exceed the expectations of our customers, and how do we deliver content and experiences to them that surprise and delight them, that are better than they are expecting. And if we are able to do that, we win. And I guess the thing that I'm most sensitive to, or that thing that keeps me up at night, is how do we stay in sync with our audience? How do we be there as they are evolving and changing? How do we anticipate what it is that they want tomorrow? They know what they're consuming today. How do we be on the front cutting edge of what they're going to want tomorrow, and then do it in a quality way that enhances our brand and exceeds their expectations.
Great. Well, I want to thank both of you. You've been fabulous partners in taking this journey with us. I think hopefully we won't wait 3 years to come back. We'll be talking about this maybe next year and the following as a great success. But you've been fabulous to work with, and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you both. So we've listened to our partners about what content companies want, what advertisers need, what brands need to connect. We've listened to our customers, and we've done a lot of focus work to try and build a product that makes sense to our customers as well, about what they want to watch, what they want to listen to, and how they want to share. And we've also learned from the expertise of all of the companies that we've acquired and that we partner with going from day to day in building the product. And the result has been the launch of Go90, which is really a social entertainment platform for the mobile first generation. It starts with having premium content. So we are very focused on what's relevant to millennials and to Gen Z. We'll have 15 of 30 most viewed shows. We'll have 9 of 15 of the most viewed on web. We'll have hundreds of originals. We'll have best of live, sports, music, cultural events, and we'll continue to bring new content to the platform. But it's also about creating a social experience because we know that this group wants to watch and also share. So it's about consumption plus conversation. It's about being able to cut and share clips both inside the application and outside with all of the social media. It's about joining crews and following people that are like you or things that they're doing and be able to share with friends and fans. And it's also about crowdsourcing and getting recommendations from the community. And we couldn't do it without the great partners that you saw on stage, but also the NFL, NCAA, obviously Awesomeness TV, HuffPost Live, Univision, Scripps, and many, many more that you'll see inside the product. So I want to give you the first view of Go90, and I've got a video to show you. Just about 5 million Verizon customers, but ultimately the application will work across all carriers, including Wi-Fi. We'll have a national launch later this month. Look, we think this is a very exciting time, and I know you hear a lot about this space, but we think that we're skating to where the puck is going, not to where it is today. And there's a dynamic opportunity for those companies who want to take advantage of that. Verizon and our partners that have come along the journey with us are very committed to being one of those companies. I want to thank you and enjoy the rest of your conference.